According to the National Electrical Code, 2NM cables can be installed through a single knockout within a metal 1900 box that features pre-installed clamps only when certain conditions are satisfied. Firstly, the combined cross-sectional area of the 2NM cables cannot exceed 40% of the cross-sectional area of the knockout itself. Secondly, the NM cables have to be secured correctly within the knockout using listed cable clamps or connectors designed for the purpose. Thirdly, care must be taken to ensure that the NM cables are not subjected to damage or pinching during the process of installation. The exception to NEC section 314.17c lends support to this interpretation. This section addresses the fill requirements for cable entries into boxes. The exception clarifies that the 40% fill requirement does not apply to listed boxes when they are equipped with pre-installed cable clamps. This implies that if a metal 1900 box is listed and has pre-installed cable clamps, the restriction on the fill percentage based on the knockout size becomes less stringent. However, it is crucial to adhere to the other conditions, such as proper securing and avoiding cable damage. The term NM cable refers to non-metallic sheathed cable, a common type of electrical wiring used in residential and light commercial buildings. It consists of two or more insulated conductors enclosed within a non-metallic outer sheath. The purpose of the sheath is to provide protection for the conductors and to help prevent the spread of fire. A metal 1900 box is a standard electrical box commonly used for housing electrical connections and devices. The designation 1900 refers to the box's dimensions, which are typically 4 inches by 4 inches by 1.5 inches deep. These boxes are usually made of steel or aluminum and are designed to be durable and to provide a secure enclosure for electrical components. Knockouts are pre-cut openings in the metal box that can be easily removed to create an entry point for cables or conduit. These knockouts come in various sizes to accommodate different types of wiring. Pre-installed clamps are built-in mechanisms within the electrical box that are designed to secure cables as they enter the box. These clamps help to prevent the cables from being pulled out or damaged, and they also provide strain relief. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, is a set of standards and guidelines for the safe installation of electrical wiring and equipment in the United States. It is developed and published by the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA) and is updated every 3 years. Electrical inspectors use the NEC to ensure that electrical installations comply with safety regulations. The purpose of the NEC is to protect people and property from electrical hazards. Section 314.17c of the NEC specifically addresses the number of conductors and cables that can be installed in a box. It provides guidelines for calculating the fill capacity of boxes to ensure that they are not overcrowded. Overcrowding can lead to overheating and other electrical problems. The exception to Section 314.17c allows for more flexibility when using listed boxes with pre-installed clamps. This is because the clamps provide additional support and strain relief for the cables, reducing the risk of damage or overheating. Listed cable clamps or connectors are those that have been tested and approved by a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories UL. These clamps are designed to securely hold the cables in place and to prevent them from being pulled out of the box. Proper securing of cables is essential to prevent electrical hazards and to ensure the long-term reliability of the electrical system. Damaged or pinched cables can create a fire hazard or cause electrical equipment to malfunction. Therefore, it is important to handle cables carefully during installation and to avoid bending or twisting them excessively. The 40% fill requirement is a guideline that limits the amount of space that can be occupied by cables inside a box. This requirement helps to prevent overcrowding and to ensure that there is adequate ventilation to prevent overheating. To determine whether 2NM cables meet the 40% fill requirement, you need to calculate the total cross-sectional area of the cables and compare it to the cross-sectional area of the knockout. The cross-sectional area of a cable can be found in the NEC or in the cable manufacturer's specifications. The cross-sectional area of a knockout can be measured using a caliper or other measuring tool. If the total cross-sectional area of the cables exceeds 40% of the cross-sectional area of the knockout, then you cannot install both cables in the same knockout. In this case, you would need to use a larger knockout or install the cables in separate knockouts. In summary, while the NEC permits the installation of 2 NM cables into a single knockout of a metal 1900 box with pre-installed clamps, strict adherence to the specified conditions is mandatory. These conditions ensure the safety and functionality of the electrical installation. Ignoring these guidelines could lead to code violations, potential safety hazards, and long-term reliability issues. Therefore, it is crucial for electricians and engineers to be well versed in these requirements and to apply them diligently in their work. When dealing with electrical installations, it's always best to err on the side of caution and to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any doubts. The NEC is a complex document, and its interpretation can sometimes be challenging. A professional can provide guidance and ensure that your installation meets all applicable requirements. Furthermore, it is important to note that local codes and regulations may have additional requirements or restrictions that are not covered by the NEC. Be sure to check with your local building department to ensure that your installation complies with all applicable codes. Proper planning and execution are essential for any electrical installation. Before starting any work, carefully review the NEC and any applicable local codes. Make sure you have the necessary tools and materials, and that you are familiar with proper installation techniques. If you are not comfortable performing the work yourself, hire a qualified electrician to do it for you. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is always best to leave it to the professionals. In addition to the specific requirements for installing NM cables in metal boxes, there are also general safety precautions that should be followed when working with electricity. Always turn off the power to the circuit you are working on before starting any work. Use insulated tools and wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and gloves. Never work on electrical equipment when you are wet or standing in water. Be aware of your surroundings and avoid contact with any exposed wires or metal surfaces. If you are ever unsure about something, ask for help. There is no shame in admitting that you don't know something. It is better to be safe than sorry. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure the safety of yourself and others. Remember that electricity is a powerful force, and it should be treated with respect. Never take shortcuts or compromise on safety. Always follow the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations. And if you are ever in doubt, consult with a qualified electrical professional. Staying safe when working with electricity is a matter of knowledge, preparation, and caution. With the right approach, you can minimize the risk of accidents and ensure that your electrical installations are safe and reliable. Consider the cross-sectional area of the cables being used. The NEC provides tables that list the dimensions of various types of cables. Use these tables to determine the cross-sectional area of the cables you are using. Then calculate the total cross-sectional area of the cables that will be installed in the knockout. Compare this total to the cross-sectional area of the knockout to ensure that it does not exceed the 40% fill requirement. Also note the type of cable clamp or connector being used. The NEC requires that cable clamps and connectors be listed for the type of cable being used. Make sure that the cable clamps or connectors you are using are appropriate for NM cable and that they are properly installed. Improperly installed cable clamps can damage the cables and create a safety hazard. Moreover, examine the condition of the cables themselves. Before installing any cables, inspect them for any signs of damage such as cuts, abrasions, or kinks. Damaged cables should not be used, as they can create a fire hazard or cause electrical equipment to malfunction. Avoid creating sharp bends in the cables. Sharp bends can damage the insulation and reduce the current carrying capacity of the cables. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations for the minimum bend radius of the cables. Secure the cables properly. Use cable ties or straps to secure the cables to the inside of the box. This will help to prevent the cables from being pulled out of the knockout or damaged. Consider future modifications. When planning your electrical installation, think about any future modifications that may be needed. Leave enough slack in the cables to allow for future changes. Avoid overcrowding the box. Overcrowding can make it difficult to work inside the box and can also lead to overheating. If you need to install more cables than the box can accommodate, use a larger box. Document your work. Keep a record of all the electrical work you have done, including the types of cables you used, the sizes of the knockouts, and the locations of the cable clamps. This documentation will be helpful for future maintenance and repairs. Get a permit. In many jurisdictions, a permit is required for electrical work. Check with your local building department to see if a permit is required for your project. Complying with permit requirements will ensure that your work is inspected and approved by a qualified electrical inspector. This helps to ensure that your installation meets all applicable codes and regulations.